Ramon Tremosa.
Thank you very much, President Gualtieri. President Draghi, welcome again to this committee. I want to thank you for all these years of excellent job helping our countries to exit from the financial crisis. I have two questions. I enjoyed very much the debate between you and Philippe Lamberts about binding rules reinforcing convergence. So I don't know if we should be worried when rules are not binding. And also you talk about that when public debt is too high, countries lose sovereignty. I don't know if you can give us some light when public debt is too high. No? So maybe some light would be interesting. No? And concerning this point, we have seen a divergence in the dynamics of public debt between big countries in the euro area. We have seen Germany improving very much its ratio from 80 to 60%, but other countries still in public deficit excessive procedures or increasing its GDP debt GDP ratio, public debt GDP ratio. So I don't know if we should be worried about the link between banks of a country having too many public debt of that country. I don't know, how do you see in the next years this evolution? And finally, when the ECB purchases government bonds, it simply swaps cash for bonds, so collateral for banks remains the same. Government securities have no haircut. Any other asset has haircuts, and we saw in Greece and Cyprus that government debt is not risk-free. So should or could European regulators push for a haircut to government debt or not, or it would affect financial stability? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, of course, it's difficult to say when debt is too high. There has been a new stream of literature, however, without going into the details of this literature, I would point out, or I would focus only on one aspect. The way debt's being reduced, just your example, the way debt is being reduced in the Eurozone most markedly is in the parts of the Eurozone where growth has been highest. Growth is key to reduce debt to GDP ratios. It seems obvious. But so by and large, all countries in the Eurozone, if you look at the last 10 years, had pursued fiscal policies, budgetary policies, which were in the ball game of being reasonable. It's a half percentage point more, 1 percentage point less, but by and large reasonable. What is crucial, what is still crucial, are the reforms that allow growth to pick up. And that's what, for example, your example of Germany, that's what Germany did in the early 2000s. And other countries as well have done the same. And that's what debt has been going down. It's not because of especially strict fiscal policies that debt goes down. It's the other part. It's the growth friendliness of the budget, and it's the structural reforms that make growth pick up. I think that's what we should focus on in the coming years. Now, on banks' holdings of sovereign bonds, banks' holdings of sovereign bonds are risky. That's a fact. They were not risky until the beginning of the crisis. Now they are risky. And so a good supervisor should acknowledge this risk. But we've said, and we've concluded, that this should be done first of all, in a way to maintain some sort of level playing field with what happens with the banks outside the European Union, where these banks have either no risk weights at all or very low risk weights. The point of fact is that they refused categorically to have any conversation about weights or any other form of limiting banks' exposure to governments in the rest of the world, refused to have any conversation We tried for a long time in the Basel Committee. That's one aspect. The second aspect is that we should have this progress on this front in a way that doesn't affect financial stability. Again, it's another example. I made it before, another example of, it's another instance where you want the remedy not to be worse than the illness. So, but having said that, it's a fact, they are risky. And so for stronger banks, we have to address this issue. We haven't discussed haircuts or risk weights or limits to grade, quantitative limits to concentration. All these have been sort of looked at, but there is no orientation at all that we can point out to. I think I've answered both questions.